We're going to sort through the rubble of what is the initial New York Jets 53-man roster, plus who else could they add with the waiver wires today. We discuss and get you ready with this roster evaluation. Let's roll.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, handsome and beautiful people out there. I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Every.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcast. And we're going to react to the initial 53-man roster. We have a lot of shows out on that yesterday, plus reveal the top waiver wire targets and some takeaways from this initial 53, which I remind everyone is not the final 53. More on that in just a few minutes. Let's bring in our special guest, baby. He joins us every hump day. He is Nick Faria. He is our Jets reporter from the Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports, and he joins us here this morning. What's up, Nick?
Hey, how's everything going, Paul? Great to be back on.
Yeah, so let's get into it because I want to start with your tweet because it is spectacular, and I will throw it up for everyone to see and to enjoy and to marinate in and bask in, perhaps. You sent this out yesterday. Here it is on the screen, and for audio-only listeners, I'll read it for you. And this is from Nick Faria. The only major takeaway to have about the Jets' 53-man roster is that this group is the most talented the franchise has had in quite some time, maybe ever. Nick? Give us the juicy deets. Please elaborate, my man.
All right, so let's go by position because I always like to look this at an analytical standpoint. Is Aaron Rodgers better than almost every quarterback in New York Jets history? Obviously, he needs to perform on the field if he's going to be better than Joe Namath. But outside of that, the talent level is off the charts. And then you look and say, okay, is Breece Hall better than almost every running back in Jets history? And you could say, well, Curtis Martin, Thomas Jones, those kind of guys, Curtis Martin's in the Hall of Fame, deservedly so, certainly in that conversation for top five. And then you say, okay, well, how about receiver? Garrett Wilson, still young in his career, still developing. Tyron Smith, an all-pro left tackle at the height of his powers. Is he the best left tackle the Jets have had? The offensive line group. You look at this offense and you look at the skill group and the offensive line and all the pieces in place. This is one of the better offenses the team has ever had. And then you look and say, okay, well, what about the defense? The Jets history is predicated off of good, strong defense. Well, you got a two-time All-Pro at corner, two All-Pros at linebacker, an All-Pro defensive tackle, young pass rushers overall, and should he show up eventually, one of the better pass rushers in the National Football League right now. So I look at where the Jets are, and they are in a very unique position for who they are, and that is they have a roster that can overwhelm almost every single team in the National Football League this year. I'm even throwing the San Francisco 49ers in there because I don't think the 49ers without Trent Williams or a healthy Christian McCaffrey would do much against this Jets roster. I mean, I look at where New York is from where they were 4 years ago, and this team is night and day. This is one of the five best teams talent-wise in the National Football League. Now, talent will only get you so far. The locker room is still very strong, but now this is up to coaching. Coaching essentially has to stand there and say, we're not going to screw this up. And if they don't, the Jets most likely are probably going to win over 12 games. I would think more than likely winning over 12 games.
Wow, a very talented roster indeed, which takes us to the next question, as I kind of set up there in the intro for people. Just because we have an initial 53 doesn't mean it's the final 53. There can be all kinds of alterations, trades, the waiver wire today, which we'll get into. What's your sense? Are the Jets going to be very active today in the waiver wires? And again, for those who don't know, if you claim a player off waivers, they must get added to your 53-man roster immediately, which means you must kick one of those initial 53 off to bring somebody in. Do you imagine the Jets will be active today in that regard?
Yes and no. I think they'll kick the tires on some conversations with some different positions, but I think they are going to try to keep this interior defensive line as long as they possibly can. And really, the point ahead is what happens with Hassan Reddick. I don't see them going after borderline roster players to essentially pick over guys like Jason Brownlee and Israel Abanikanda. I could be wrong, but based on what Robert Saleh has said, based on their premise of how they're building this roster, it just would not add up. It wouldn't make sense overall. So I see them really standing back on the waiver wire to this point and waiting to see, okay, if we can get Reddick in, who are we releasing? Will it be Eric Watts to the practice squad? Are we going to get rid of Jason Brownlee? Maybe they want a sixth receiver. Maybe they want to upgrade Brownlee's spot and they sign a guy like Tim Patrick. That's certainly in the works. It could certainly happen, and he would be a quality depth piece for the roster. But it to me right now, patience is a virtue for the Jets. They want to see what they have in this group, and certainly is a reason why this team is as talented as they are.
And everyone listen to Johnny Boy here. Everyone smash the like button and sub up, baby. Spread the good love of Boy Green Daily. We've been dancing around it. Let's talk about Hassan Reddick. And before we talk about it, let's go to the man himself, Adam Schefter. ESPN yesterday was asked for an update on Hassan Reddick. And, well, here's what he provided.
There hasn't been a lot of progress there. And the last time the Jets made him an offer, it was shortly after they traded for him. And he showed up at the facility for their introductory press conference and the physical. And since then, talks have completely stalled. And they've stalled because the Jets want him in the building before they believe they should start up talks aimed at a long-term contract extension. And Reddick wants a contract before he shows up. And so you have this game of chicken that now is 13 days away from the regular season opener for the Jets in San Francisco against Brandon Ayuk's 49ers. And so the Jets have their own unresolved issue that right now has no end in sight. Now, Robert Saleh didn't sound overly concerned, sounded upbeat and optimistic that eventually they could figure this out. But the clock is running. And this always was going to be a week in which there would be renewed efforts from the teams involved in these significant situations to try to get something done. The only one that has been able to break through so far is Dallas with CeeDee Lamb. Now we wait to see if any of these other teams can find some sort of solution for any of the situations and players involved in these protracted situations that have dragged out through training camp.
No end in sight. Contract talk stalled for a month. All of that does not sound great. And by the way, 13 days was yesterday when Adam Schefter did it. We're now on day 12. It's like Europe, the final countdown to the season is what's happening here. What more can you provide? And where is there a soft deadline here? Like, okay, because for a long time, there hasn't been deadline. Sure, there's been these preseason games, but he's been fined so much at a certain point, it's just water buckets in the ocean if you're as hell-bent and dug in as it appears that Hassan Reddick is. So where are deadlines? Where are pressure points ahead of the season where it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Reddick to continue to hold out?
I know Rich Cimini said somewhere around the 1st and the 2nd of September. I think that date is perfectly fair overall. But I continue to say week 1 is the demarcation point for this negotiation because this is all about leverage. The Jets are holding the leverage right now. Reddick tried to use some of them when he originally sat out of training camp and then also requested a trade. But then the Jets called him on it by saying, we're not moving him. Screw you. We're doing what we are going to do to make our team better. And that means holding you essentially on this roster until you show up. So in this game of chicken, and Schefter is absolutely right, this is a game of chicken because neither side wants to talk to the other unless their demands are met. That means we have to go to week 1. And yes, I want to stress that a deal could be done before the game is played. And, deadlines, they get everyone to the negotiating table. I remember with Mets fans, the Francisco Lindor trade happened, and they didn't get a long-term deal done until like 11:55 before opening day. And the whole point was, well, you got to get it done because Lindor will not negotiate in the middle of the season. You have to get it done before opening day, and they did it 5 minutes before the deadline. So a situation like that could absolutely happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. However, when we get to the 49ers game and Reddick potentially does not show up, if the Jets were to come out and the defensive line dominates and plays really well, gets 5 sacks, completely eviscerates Brock Purdy from existence, the entire works, what leverage does Hassan Reddick have? They just showed against one of the better teams in the NFL that they don't need you. So, okay, you can sit out and keep collecting these fines and not making the money that you are worth, or at least close to being worth, or you can just show up, be a part of a championship team, and really boost your salary going into 2025, kind of what Von Miller did. And people will say, well, Hassan Reddick is not Von Miller, but Miller was a 30-year-old edge rusher who got a massive contract extension, which is exactly what Reddick is looking for. When Reddick turns 30, he is not going to be on the upper echelon of players at his career, which is why it's so interesting that he would be willing to sit out games this season. Now, conversely, if the Jets were to walk into San Francisco and get their bell rung, and the defensive line's a big reason why. They can't rush the passer. They can't stop the run. All those things mixed in, Reddick now has all the leverage because the Jets have said all along, this is an all-in year for us. We are going for the Super Bowl. We are saving our jobs. Well, how can you save your job? How can you say you want to be aggressive and fight for a Super Bowl if you're not willing to pay your best overall pass rusher? You have seen firsthand that you need him. So that week one game is a demarcation point to really determine just who has the leverage, who has the control in the situation, because the Jets can sit here and say, we're not negotiating with a player who's not here all they want. If week one comes around and they get blown out in San Francisco and the defensive line gets killed, they're going to have to change that stance because public opinion is going to switch very quickly when it comes to this.
Again, we're speaking with Jets team reporter Nick Faria here on Boy Green Daily. I almost tagged our radio show there for a second. I got in the mood. I got the juices flowing. But I do want to get to this one because you spoke about the pass rushers. 3 undrafted free agents made the Jets defensive line. Jets are 10 strong on the defensive line, which is a number a lot of us thought they would get to. But heading in, I think a lot of people argued that the defensive line was one of the best positional groups on the New York Jets entire roster, which, good luck to undrafted free agents trying to crack that lineup. And those 3 are Braden McGregor out of Michigan, undrafted free agent, Eric Watts out of UConn, undrafted free agent, and Leonard Taylor III, undrafted free agent out of Miami. I'm going to be honest, as we were having those conversations of like, who's going to be the guy? Because all of them can't make it. Well, all of them did make it. What the flying hoot? How did this happen, Nick? This is jarring. This is surprising. This is wow. Undrafted free agents. Yeah.
I was shocked with that, but they were also helped by the IR designations. If Leaky Fotu isn't placed on IR, able to return after a certain period of time in the NFL season, does Eric Watts make the roster? Probably not. Yeah. If Kenny Yeboah, the Jets love keeping 3 tight ends on the roster. If Kenny Yeboah isn't on IR, do the Jets keep him on the roster? Do the Jets keep a guy like, Braden McGregor or Jason Brownlee on the roster? Probably not. So the IR designations really opened this up for the Jets, and they found creative ways to keep these guys together. And I will say one thing that I think Joe Douglas should be commended at. Sure. A lot of executives, a lot of general managers in the National Football League, they have preconceived notions on where they're going to go in terms of the final 53-man roster decision. And what I mean by that is the agendas of some GMs is to protect players that they went all out for and that they acquired and they tried to keep and say, hey, I believe in this guy. I know I'm a good GM. We're keeping this guy on the roster, even if he hasn't looked good in training camp or the preseason. I think Philadelphia, Howie Roseman's a great GM. He is notorious for doing that, where he will keep players solely because he kept them and brought them into the roster, and he wants to show that when used properly, he is a great player for this team. And it sometimes blows up in his face. You look at Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, all those different pieces where you looked at it and said, why is he still on the roster? And Rosen was just, no, I'm going to double down on my guy because I believe in him and I made this call. I'm doubling down overall year after year after year after year. Joe Douglas didn't do that this year. I mean, there were great opportunities for other players to make the roster who Joe Douglas brought in and drafted. When you cut your 7th round selection for undrafted free agents, that's a sign that the GM doesn't care about overall draft grades. He's looking to say, all right, who's played better, Jalen Key or Leonard Taylor? Leonard Taylor may not have been the pick that we made in the 7th round, but we brought him in as an undrafted free agent. This is my calling card. I'm willing to do this. So the fact that Douglas and the Jets organization was willing to reward the players who performed better than anyone else in training camp, in the preseason contest, that is a great sign because it shows that Joe Douglas, the process of how he wants to build this roster. I always talk about process. The process of building the roster is as strong and sound as you can find in the NFL.
A guy with Philadelphia roots using the word process. Could have had that on the bingo card. That's potentially
Listen,
there.
I'm not even from Philly. I want to preface that.
Yeah.
I'm not from Philly, but
okay.
I have heard so many general managers and owners in the NFL talk about process and the process of trading up for draft picks, the process of free agency, process of roster maneuvering, the process that goes through this standard. A lot of GMs try to cut corners. You look at the Giants and what they've done. Joe Shane has tried to cut corners left and right. His process is horrific. And you can look and see each demarcation point as an example. But Douglas, in his roster building, there's a reason why the Jets have been able to rebuild this roster as quickly as they have, because their process is very, very sound.
Oh, well, that makes you feel good about that process. Now I'm saying it, but about that process of the pieces coming together that way, and not necessarily mattering where they came from, just what has happened since you've acquired them, which has been terrific. Let's throw a membership in here, MFC. Yes, let's get this party rolling. _Chew gifted a membership to Indy Jets. You are now a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. That includes a loyalty badge, unlocking of all the emojis to use, plus, as Jared B already put it in the chat, Discord access, baby, where the party continues well beyond 7:30 in the morning, baby. Wink. Alrighty then, let's get to a couple other things here, including, oh boy, sometimes we have fans of other teams that just peruse in the chat. Just take a quick little scuba gear dive in here, and someone that loves, Love, loves jumping in here, is Danny, the guy I actually do know in real life, as his name as well. It's not necessarily breaking news. This came out last night. But Danny, our lovely Buffalo Bills fan, saying Bills signed former Jets starting quarterback to their practice squad. That was Mike White, for those who missed it last night, from Adam Schefter. This is the 3rd straight year Mike White will be in the AFC East. Jets, Dolphins, now Bills somehow over the last 3 years. I'm curious. I want to throw this at you here, Nick, because number one, the Jets cleaned house of their own quarterback room. Adrian Martinez gone, Andrew Peasley gone. We'll see what happens with practice squad. Some of that action obviously will be coming out today, but those two guys are gone. They clean out the room. Mike White, just so everyone knows, signed a practice squad deal with the Buffalo Bills. We'll see if he quickly elevates. Mitchell Trubisky is hurt, so there might be a path for him to move up very quickly there. First off, what do you make of the Bills jumping on the Mike White bandwagon? 2-2. I guess the Patriots are next for 2025, I suppose. And the Jets have been involved in this because, while Mike White, you could say what you want about him, he would have been an upgrade over Andrew Peasley and Adrian Martinez.
No, I agree. And I think I was kind of pushing for that a couple of days ago when he was first released by Miami, and again, we're stressing about different points. And when you're stressing about the 3rd quarterback, know life is really good. Life is really good. So I think the Jets, no matter what they do in this instance, they're going to be fine. Tyrod Taylor's a great backup. I have a strong suspicion that they are going to wait to see what other quarterbacks are going to be made available over the next couple of days. I know they really like their guys, Peasley and Martinez. I know they want to wait patiently for Jordan Travis, which is why he's on IR to begin with. I just look at it and say, okay, could the Jets have brought back Mike White? Sure. Is he really going to switch the needle for Buffalo in any instance? Absolutely not. And this is what I'm talking about here. Like, at some point, fans, and I saw a lot of fans do this overall when Mike White was originally released by the Dolphins. No, we don't need him anymore. We don't need him. And yes, it's absolutely true. You don't cry over a previous move that was made for your team when you have such a massive upgrade at both backup and starting quarterback now. You don't worry about what happened then. But at the same time, a third quarterback could be very helpful because things happen in the NFL. And with this new rule change that the 49ers essentially pushed after the 2023 NFC Championship game, which I will continue to say is an absolute farce, the reality is that you get to keep a third quarterback on game day. And so you want to make sure that third quarterback can run your offense. Could it have been Mike White? Sure, but there will be other quarterbacks. This is a traditional West Coast offense, and a lot of quarterbacks have run with that traditional West Coast system. So they're going to have the pick of the litter really over the next couple of days.
Speaking of Bills, Danny, you'll love this when I ask Bills-related questions, but sort of related Bills questions. Why trade Brandon Codrington to the Buffalo Bills? Again, if you somehow missed it, it's Brandon Codrington, a 7th-round pick, to Buffalo for a 6th-round pick in 2026. So they just moved up around in 2026. Because here's my thoughts, and then crush anything that's wrong here, Nick. Okay? If the Bills, so first off, the waiver wire order is based on the 2024 draft order. The Bills were like in the mid-20s. So that means, I believe it's 28 actually, which means 27 other teams would have had to pass on Codrington for them to have a chance, because if they claim him ahead, they get him. So obviously Buffalo thought he wouldn't make it there. They wouldn't have given up the pick. And if they thought he wasn't going to get there, that means that someone else would have claimed him, which means that if the Jets would have cut him or traded him to another team, you could have sent him somewhere else. So they send him to Buffalo. And again, same sort of thing you just said with Mike White. I don't think, Bills are Super Bowl favorites. They have Brandon Codrington. That's not what I'm saying at all. But like, if Codrington against the Jets, especially, Danny was joking with me yesterday on one of the live streams we were doing where he's like, oh boy, we'll get you back for the Xavier Gibson punt return touchdown. If anything like that happens, of course, that's obvious. Or even if the Bills are in a week 18 matchup and Brandon Codrington's return helps them like get into the playoffs or any big game, we're going to be like, damn, all we got was a move up in a 6th round and he could have went anywhere else. Why did the Jets trade Brandon Codrington inside the division? Again, it's not Aaron Rodgers. They didn't trade Garrett Wilson over there, obviously, but it still seems strange because they hadn't done a trade, according to Ritzamini, in 37 years. Maybe it should have been 38 years or 39, 40 perhaps. Thoughts?
So I actually agree with you, Paul. I thought this move, I talk about process, and I've been complimenting Douglas on his process of roster construction. I'm very confused of the process of this particular trade because, as you said so eloquently, the Bills may not have been able to pick him up. So if you were really looking to get draft capital for Brandon Codrington and the Bills were the only team willing to give you that draft capital, why would you send an asset, any asset whatsoever, whether it be a third quarterback, a third running back, or a return specialist? Why would you give an asset to your division rival, the team that you are trying to supplant in the AFC East? Now, I have a general rule of thumb. I never trade within the division. I know Howie Roseman has essentially bypassed that and said, no, I'm going to trade within the division, and I'm going to make them all look like idiots every single year I do it. I get it. And there are some teams that are able to pull it off. But Philadelphia is a consistent playoff contender every single year. They have built a very large war chest of, no, we know what we're doing. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. We got it. We're fine. Do the Jets have that? We've seen so many moves in franchise history where the Jets make a move, and we're like, well, wait a minute. Why did you make this move? And they say, trust us. And the move blows up in their face. Could Jets fans everywhere, I'm sure they would agree with me. You can absolutely see a situation later in the year or again in this matchup where it's a tie game and Codrington returns a punt inside field goal range or returns a kickoff for a touchdown to give the Bills the win. And everyone's going to look back and say, why of all things did you trade him to the Bills? Because guess what? Yes, you could have wanted extra draft capital for Codrington, but if you put him on waivers and he goes to the Arizona Cardinals or he goes to an NFC team, does that impact you at all? Is a 6th round pick that impactful enough where you just let a player go so you don't have to worry about him being in the division? There were going to be people that picked up Codrington on waivers. He's a returner, and he looked really good in special teams. he would have been picked up earlier than Buffalo. So why did you essentially give a solid asset, not a great one, not a transcending asset, but a good asset overall to the team that you are trying to beat in this division? It does not make sense to me, because you never want to trade in the division, but if you're giving an asset to the division, why are you giving a player that will face you twice a year?
Yeah. Excuse me. How I've kind of always viewed it, because, for instance, if we think back a couple of years ago, speaking of Bills and Jets, the Bills tried to trade up with the Jets in the 2019 draft to get Quinnen Williams. And the talks were apparently hot and heavy about the Bills, who sat at 9, wanted the Jets at 3 and wanted to jump up, and they wanted Quinnen Williams. And thank God Mike McCagnon did not pull the trigger on that, because for me, if I'm ever going to trade inside the division, if at all, because like you can Howie Roseman make other people look like idiots forever. You need like an extra tax. Like, boy, if I'm going to do it, you better be giving me gold, like a move up of a round. Like, that's not enough of a significant difference. Yeah, that's what I mean. Exactly. Like, if you're like, we'll give you a third. Okay. Wow. This is a guy that we were just going to, okay. That is so rich. We have no choice. We got to make the best deal for the team. But in something like this, it felt somewhat inconsequential. So, and we'll see. Let's bookmark this. Chink! August 28th. Hopefully we don't have to come back to this one. Oh,
well, that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
If this isn't a player really to go, oh my God, what are they doing? I just am confused by this move, because you never want to give an asset to a division rival. You never want to. That's just a general rule of thumb. And Codrington could be released before opening day for the Bills. It may just be that simple. He may not make the team. He may be, a healthy scratch for the entire year. He may not see the field. But the idea of giving him what has looked to be a solid returner in a league now that is trying to push kick and punt returns, you're giving them an asset that you actually liked. That's what I'm confused with.
Yeah, let's go to a super chat to expand this conversation. Anytime we get a super chat, we play it from my data.
Wow.
Zariah Luna. So Nate asks in on YouTube, super chat, appreciate you, Nate. What if Codrington fumbles and loses a game for them versus us? Can play the what if game both ways. Thoughts, Nick?
I get it. I'm not disagreeing with that point. It can go any possible way. But I've also seen Jets history in the year that I've been a part of this beat. And the one thing that I've noticed is that the football gods quite literally hate all of you. I don't know why. I don't understand the whole point. Maybe Joe Namath's deal with the devil is not up yet. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. But, okay, which is more likely? Brandon Codrington fumbling a kickoff and a punt, or Brandon Codrington against the Jets, the team that traded him to the Bills, returning a fumble or returning a kick or a punt for a touchdown? Which is more likely based on Jets history? I'm sorry. Like, I have to be objective here and just say, listen, I don't like this trade. I think you could have just let him walk on waivers and you never have to talk about him again.
Yeah, well, so we'll see. Maybe he won't have an impact. We'll see, but it's certainly something that should be noted. I threw this out there on social media, so Nick, again, feel free. Yeah, I don't really need to tell you to give you the creative liberty to at any point call me an idiot, but I just feel like, hey, let me just leave the door unlocked. Come on in if you want to. So something I threw out there, a surprising cut to me was like, whoa. Justin Hardy, who left the Jets, went to Cleveland. Seemed like he signed a nice deal. I'm like, okay, there you go. See you, Justin. Good luck. And I saw him get cut on 53-man. Now, this could certainly be roster gymnastics, a deal between the Browns and Justin. Hey, we're going to cut you. You're a veteran. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to bring you back, just like the Jets did last year. So I haven't heard any of that out there in the social media streets as I was looking at the situation. But as he is a free agent, should the Jets bring him back and say, Irv Charles, see ya, sucker. Bring back in Justin Hardy, team leader, was a captain, Pro Bowl gunner, and bring him back, especially with the special teams rule changes. It seems more important than ever. And the money that he was commanding in free agency ain't the money he's commanding at the end of August after being released. Is there any life that can be breathed into a potential Justin Hardy New York Jets reunion?
I'm never going to say no to these situations because injuries happen, and a reunion could certainly be in the cards. I think it's very unlikely. For a couple of reasons, but probably the chief among them is the fact that Irv Charles replaced Hardy last year, and he earned his spot last season. Not only that, though, Brant Boyer has essentially showed that he has pull for this 53-man roster. Irv Charles makes the team. Chaz Surratt makes the team. Special teams guys that aren't going to see the field for the offense and defense this season, but are on the team as special teams aces. That should tell you how valuable the Jets feel Brant Boyer is, but also how valuable these players are for his system overall. So I don't see it happening. I think they're all in on Charles. They're all in on Surratt, and they're essentially saying, we're good with what we got, at least right now.
Fair enough. Again, we're going to open up the phone lines here in just a moment. Thanks to the 500 people that are in the room right now. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe, show your support. We appreciate it. You answered this a little bit earlier, but feel free to provide those same names, but I'll reiterate the question. Again, this is an initial 53, not the final 53. So the Jets are going to be making some alterations here potentially, which means that some people popped some champagne last night, some bubbly, like, woohoo, I made the roster. And then today, sorry, you didn't. You know, it's a cutthroat business. It's absolutely cold, but it is what it is. It's a profession. Who are some people that made the roster initially for the New York Jets that shouldn't unpack their things, that there is a chance that they are only here temporarily, or maybe they'll go to the practice squad, what have you, but they're only here right now. But as soon as anything happens, Hassan Reddick coming back, someone new would have to be added to the pile there, or anyone else, you know, because like, for instance, you gave great earlier, in case you guys missed that one, like Fotu being placed on IR. That caught me by surprise. I'm like, whoa, Kenny Bo, whoa. All of a sudden, that's two bonus spots we didn't see. Jordan Travis, okay, we kind of saw that with the NFI list. But the two IRs are like, whoa, these are bonus. These are lucky golden ticket. I just opened a Willy Wonka bar, and whoa, there's a golden ticket in here from a roster spot perspective. So who are some of those guys that are on the fringe, even today after making the initial 53?
I can give you probably the three right now. It's Israel Abanikanda, Jason Brownlee, and Eric Watts. I think those are the three that are probably in most danger of being moved at any point. You know, you think about it, Isaiah Oliver could be on that list. Xavier Newman could be on that list. But in the grand scheme of things, Fotu returns from his IR stint. Who's the player that's going to be cut? Probably Eric Watts. Hassan Reddick shows up. Who's going to be cut? Well, probably Jason Brownlee, maybe Newman, maybe Abanikanda, maybe, you know, Brady McGregor. All these other guys that aren't just going to see the field. So it really just comes down to when these situations get resolved. But probably the three names right now that may not have a roster spot on the team 24 hours after decisions are made: Abanikanda, Brownlee. Who was the third that I said?
Xavier Newman. Eric Watts as well. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on those guys. All right, some new memberships. First off, Italian Stallion. What a great name. Oh, look at that dog. We all love dogs. Italian Stallion punched their own ticket in as a member. Italian Stallion didn't stop there. They are an overachiever, baby. They just gifted 5. Count up 5 memberships. Good Lord have mercy. So let's play a couple of these. And maybe one of these. I don't know. I'll throw in a few more chimes for you, Italian Stallion. That's beautiful. Let me see here. Let me get all your names that you gave us. Okay. All right, enough of your chimes. Shut up, draft. Damn it. All right, let's get some of those names in here. Shout out to the Italian Stallion. All you guys should thank the Italian Stallion for making this possible. Zach Rosenberg, 2025 lacrosse goalie. That is incredibly specific. We have Will M., Jimmy Jets, Devin Chafin, Luppy OU812. You are all now members to the Boy Green Coffee Club. And shout out to Italian Stallion for arriving in style, baby, who just said, good luck, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you, Paul, for all the content. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Okay, let me make sure I got to all my questions here for old Nick Faria. Okay. Oh, yes, and then the only other thing is there, so no to Justin Hardy. Okay, thanks for crushing my hopes and dreams, Nick. But But can you replace it? Is there any other veteran names you're like, whoa, that was kind of surprising that haven't already gone? I know a lot of Jet fans were on, like, for instance, Tim Patrick said, ooh, that'd be great. He already signed with the Lions practice squad. So that's one name off the books. Is there any veterans that are hanging out there and or waiver wire guys, some young cats that shook free yesterday? Because a lot of that action is obviously going to be happening today.
I think, again, it's really hard to determine where the Jets are going to go in that instance because I think they're going to try to keep a lot of their guys for the practice squad. I look at a guy that really surprised me yesterday was Michael Carter, the running back, the former Jet running back of the Arizona Cardinals being released. Jonathan Gannon had a quote where Carter was not playing in the final preseason game. And he essentially said, Carter has shown us everything we've needed to see, essentially saying that he made the team. Yeah. But in typical Jonathan Gannon style, Michael Carter gets released on cutdown day. So very interesting to see how the Cardinals position themselves in that situation because you can argue that Carter got screwed out of a roster spot because the head coach wasn't forthcoming and honest with the media. So very interesting to see. Outside of that, it's a wait-and-see game. The Jets could absolutely look to bring in a quarterback. There are plenty of UFL guys that they would be interested in, Martinez, of course, being one of them. But it's still a wait-and-see in these instances.
All right, fair enough. Well, we will see what moves happen today and more shows to come. Although tomorrow on the show, I'll give a free plug. Also, the phone lines are open. It is the pinned comment on YouTube, youtube.com/boygreen25. So if you'd like to call into the show, you have a question for Nick, you just want to call in to tell him he's handsome, he probably appreciates that. Feel free to do so. That is the pinned comment on YouTube. And tomorrow on the show, I'll give you guys a plug. Ian O'Connor, the 4-time New York Times bestselling author for, again, many books, and maybe this will be another one on the list. Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers I finished that book this week. Can't wait to chat up about it with Ian O'Connor and preview the 2024 Jets season. That will be tomorrow morning live at 7:30 in the morning. With that being said, let's get to the phone lines, baby. We've got our boy EZ here with Ballcam. What's happening, EZ?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Yes, great to see you.
All right, I have a thought on why Joe Douglas made this trade to the Bills with Codrington.
Share the secrets.
Trader Joe, man. He got rid of a 7th rounder and he picked up a 6th rounder and he was cutting this player. So we got something for nothing.
Yeah, but I don't disagree.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay.
All right, remember, Joe is in this for the long game. He's building up assets for the trade deadline. Remember, we still want a wide receiver from the Las Vegas Raiders. We need more trade assets.
Oh, yeah. So for people who don't know, hey, baby, count them up, Nick. Count them up. 3 6th-round picks in 2026, baby. Hey, if the Raiders ask nicely, I'll give them all 3. I'll give them all 3 right now for Devontae Adams. If
do we think a 6th-round pick is going to decide if Devontae Adams is a Jet or not?
But 3 of them.
Yeah, 3. Nick,
3.
1, 2, 3.
3.
Yeah, come on.
And then they can finagle those 3 into stuff. Or Joe may use some of those 6th-round picks to trade up for a higher draft position, and then that can be used to get Devontae.
Nick?
I mean, if it's the 3rd-round pick that they got in this draft, sure. But a 6th is not going to have any implication on if the Jets are able to get Devontae Adams or not. The Raiders,
it'll sweeten the pot.
I mean, you're essentially adding a penny to a pot of gold and saying, hey, this is the big piece that you're looking for, buddy.
I love that. If they're in serious negotiations and then they're like, Jets, get serious. Okay. We've been holding this one back. 6 rounds.
But what I'm saying is he can use these 3 6-round picks. He might be able to trade 3 6-rounders later, in a couple of weeks, and build it up to a 5th rounder, and then build that 5th rounder up to a 4th rounder. It's just how Joe does it. He's a genius, and we never know what he's going to do because he's always 10 steps ahead of us.
Okay. All right.
Was he 10 steps ahead when he let Bryce Huff walk for nothing?
Well, who thought we were going to get Morgan Moses back?
That's a good point. That one surprised me. I was at my radio station. I had to do a quick video for a YouTube short. I was like, holy friggin' crap. I'm like, Morgan Moses, sweet. That was not on the bingo card. When we were evaluating at the beginning of the offseason, I'll be honest, I doubt easy. I should have bowed down at the Joe Douglas statue because at the beginning of the offseason, I'm like, this guy hasn't been able to put 5 starters together in like 4 years. Now all of a sudden in a single offseason, he's going to find all the pieces. And Joe Douglas said, hold my beer, buddy.
Well,
And
it could have been that he was holding back a little bit. And now that his job is on the line, he was just like, screw it, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Let me just be. If Joe Douglas really did that, then that just angers me as a Jets fan. That he held back for no reason because his ass, in theory, wasn't on the line. I hope everyone, like Robert Saleh yesterday, someone asked him about in the media room about like the pressure of the situation, and he said, "This is going to sound corny, but I feel the pressure at every moment that I could be fired." He said, "NFL stands for the not for long league, and I'm always thinking about my job." So I hope, for the love of everything that's holy, that was not Joe Douglas's mentality. That'd be tough.
Well, like I said, I'm not in the room. I don't know what's going on.
Sure, but I appreciate it. That was fun, Easy. That was awesome. Thank you so much for the call.
If a 6th-round pick is what's going to stop Davante Adams from becoming a New York Jet, I will retire from football reporting forever.
Wow,
it does not make any sense. That doesn't make any sense in the imagination.
Brandon Codrington to Buffalo, pick to Las Vegas. Did you keep up with all that? I need like a Venn diagram.
He's getting a first, like Davante Adams. The argument is going to be okay, a first or a second and a third. Will it be a first or a second round pick and then a 3rd round pick for Davante Adams? Which one will be enough to bring him into New York? A 6th round pick is not going to be part, or at least change the discussion at all going into this point. It's just.
I just see that from Snowball, right? You're at a negotiating table. We are not going to do a deal with you, Jets. Stop calling. We'll throw in a 6th. Damn it, I'm in. Oh, well, okay. Joe Douglas. All right, there we go. Joe Douglas, everybody. Hey, I don't know. Anywho, that was entertaining. All right, another phone call here. Let's go to NY Jets FL, baby. Welcome to the show. Follow that up. I bet you.
Yeah, let's look at the 2030 draft. See how many draft picks we can accumulate for that run. Good morning, Professor Faria and Paul. I have a quick. You mentioned Huff real quick. I have a feeling Huff wanted to leave, and the fact that he played his contract out knowing he was better than what maybe the Jets thought about it. So I can't hammer Joe Douglas for that one, because I could see a player like Huff thinking, hey, I'm going to go to a more stable franchise, get a big contract, and then parlay it into a second one, especially if you win a championship or your team is, higher tier for a few years. So I can't hammer Douglas, but my point was the Saleh press conference, that he is so confident finally, and you could see it in his words and his actions. The cupboard was bare last year. We had starters on the offensive line who probably shouldn't have been playing. We obviously had quarterbacks that shouldn't have been playing. We didn't have a 1A to Quinnen. There's so many pieces that we didn't have, and now it's like the cupboard's overflowing, and you could see the confidence in Saleh. So that I can see maybe Saleh being a better coach, where he's not, we're not playing everything so close to the vest every week, where every play is like do or die, So
yeah.
that's my.
Yeah, I would just say the thing I would push back against, I think Quinnen did have a 1A. Quentin Jefferson had a career high in sacks. He did very well next to him. He's a guy I'd give a tip of the cap to. But I think the confidence, Nick's been in those rooms. I have not. To me, I think it's having a quarterback. And he has been slapped around with no quarterback play. It's a quarterback-driven league in the NFL. And, again, no one wants to hear this. Jet fans are sick of the excuses. They want wins. But 7-10 with Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian and Zach Wilson and that crap, you're like, wow, man, if Saleh just got a guy, like let's evaluate this guy. So yeah, sure. If I'm Saleh, I'd be walking around with let's be frank. Let's use the Guatemalan here. Big dick energy. He is coming in with a lean. And that's because he has a quarterback, and he's seeing Aaron Rodgers throw it all over the barnyard. So when all these people outside the organization are talking, we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to provide. So I was like, I think I've seen it. I think I know what he's going to provide, which I think that confidence is infectious, quite frankly. But go ahead, Nick. You've been in those rooms.
Sooner or later, we're going to actually realize that coaches are just that, coaches, and they're not actually that impactful in some games because this is a player-driven league overall. If Kyle Shanahan, this is the best way that I can describe it. Kyle Shanahan, since 2019, has led his 49ers to the Super Bowl twice, and he's built a great roster and all these other points. But what happened his first 2 years with the team? They were one of the worst teams in football with him because his offensive system was really solid, but he didn't have the talent around him. You look at Bill Belichick. Well, Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. What happens when Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, isn't on the team? Well, he can barely finish over 500. He can barely get to the playoffs year in and year out. He looks like one of the worst coaches in the NFL. So at some point, we need to realize that Robert Saleh, everyone can complain about his deficiencies and all these other points. If he doesn't have the quarterback, if he doesn't have the roster, like every other coach in the National Football League, he's not going to win. The team around him is not going to win. And they got 7 wins, and all of that was impressive because of the fact that, hey, they didn't have the roster that needed to be thrown out there for a playoff team. And this is why this year he's feeling a lot better because the Jets upgraded their depth. They upgraded their starting lineup, and now they look like a team that is one of the best in the AFC and not just competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I really think you're going to see, I think you're going to finally see at year 4, a Robert Saleh maybe energetically running up the sidelines and being that kind of coach that we saw as a DC.
That's right. Loose, right? Yeah, winning.
Yeah. So and another thing about the JD, he's assembling this for the long term. A lot of good young talent. And obviously the JFM thing was another not success because the younger players are going to come in and fill the role. Obviously, they have a lot of confidence in the Leonard Taylors and the other players that they're keeping. So, the young talent that's been assembled after what JD took over. I'm turning here.
That's right.
After what?
Focus on the road, for the love of God, please. Yes.
I'm pulling a Nick Faria when he drives under the bridge when you can't see him. The young talent that they assemble, and that's what you need. You need good young talent. You need veteran leadership. This could be a long-term situation where we could be successful. Even after Rodgers, even after we win a championship, I'm thinking 2 years down the road, say we win one, say Rodgers goes, maybe we just add like a Dak Prescott or some other guy and keep going. There's so much talent here.
Yeah, Nick would love nothing more than that as an Eagles guy. He would love for us to kidnap Dak Prescott in a van and bring him up there to MetLife.
Please get this guy out of my division.
100%. Thanks for the call, NY Jets FL.
Thank you.
There he is. Join us here on the show. Genergy, we answered this question earlier, but I'll bring it up, and thank you for being a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. If Reddick finally shows up, who are we giving up? Nick gave a bunch of names as possibilities: Eric Watts, Braden McGregor, Xavier Newman, Jason Brownlee. There's probably, and again, you as an NFL team, you have to think this way, especially with the waiver wire being today, that you have to have a pocket of 5 or 6 guys. You have 53. But then you have like a club of like, hey, can you guys just hang out by the back? Yeah, you're all in the club. You're just like take one step back. Okay, that's the line. If anyone needs to go, it's coming from that group. Like that's the group Genergy of who those are going to be. I didn't miss any names there, did I, Nick?
No. And I'll just say again, if Dak Prescott were to become a New York Jet next season, if Rodgers retires and they win the Super Bowl, I've never worn another team's jersey. I will put on a Dak Prescott Jets jersey. Wow. I will gladly put on a Dak Prescott Jets jersey. Sign it up, write it down the contract, all for it. Get him out of Dallas, get him out of the NFC East. would be a great day for me overall.
Easy just chimed in. Joe Klecko was a fucking 6th round pick. Let me I don't know if this is appropriate to do after this, but
Wow.
Send all of them to Vegas. Every single one. Devontae Adams for 3 6th-round picks.
Yes, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Easy. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Yes,
Jason Kelsey, 6th-round pick.
Of course, we can name other 6th-round picks. I just think that it's, I just, not to like beat a dead horse and repeat what I said before, but if the Jets were able to trade Brandon Codrington to the Bills, and they were sitting at 28 in the waiver wire order, another one of the teams in the 1 through 27 range would have traded for him, and thus you would have been able. Same thing for the Bills when they traded with the Chiefs at the end of the draft. The Chiefs were not the only offer on the table, but they took that offer and they got Xavier Worthy. And if Xavier Worthy is a 60-yard bomb on Bills fans, they're going to be like, what the hell? You could have traded to Carolina, who apparently is trying to move up for Xavier Legette. There's a lot of different options that were on the table. But apparently the Bills just said to themselves, like, well, we're not going to take Xavier Worthy, so whatever. Or whoever they interpreted. That also is dangerous because most teams don't tell you who they're trading up for. So the Bills had their sights set on, I don't know, Keon Coleman. What if the Chiefs trade up for Keon Coleman? You're like, damn it. We just lost our guy to the other guy. That doesn't make any sense. So I think the Bills made a mistake there. Sometimes people just get too cute. So I'm glad for more draft capital. That part of it is great. It's not really more. It's just quality improving because you just did a pick swap easy. And I'm not saying there hasn't been great 6th-round picks in the past, but I'm not sure if that is the sweetener that gets the deal done. Like the Raiders are like, absolutely not. 6th-round pick. Okay, I'm in. I just don't know if we get there. And I know they do have 3. So maybe I'm speaking out of turn, and maybe that will be the thing that ends up sending it. All right, let's go to the back to the phone lines here for a couple more calls. We have none other than Chef Kevin Gilbert. Chef?
BG, Nick, how you guys doing?
Excellent, man.
I appreciate it. BG, man, great work. Nick, big fan of your stuff, man. Much appreciated. Thank you for having me on the platform. Basically, everything that you guys been doing with having the research with the 53-man roster, you guys been pretty consistent. I agree with basically everything you guys been saying. One thing for me with having the 2 quarterbacks, I think that's necessary. If we have to worry about having a 3rd-string quarterback, I think I might, just lose my ish. If we have to put in a 3rd-string quarterback during this season, like. Our defense is good, our offense is good, but let's not worry about that. But having Rodgers and Tyrod, I feel really good. Feel good with where we're at right now. Izzy, who's someone who's homegrown, I liked him. I feel like he struggled early in the beginning, but then turned it on towards the end. Having him as a 4th-string running back. I really need to see him do more, man. Like him getting beat out by 2 mid-round picks this season. Like I really wanted him to do better, but obviously Braylon's he's a beast. Isaiah Davis, he's doing good in the return game. I really don't see much of an impact for Izzy, knowing that he's not even going to be there on like the punt returns and the kickoffs, knowing that we still have Gibson there, possibly Corley doing it, and then Isaiah Davis. So I don't really know what Izzy's role is going to be. He'll probably have to maybe move to the practice squad at some point, but still happy to see that he made the roster, knowing that he's like a homegrown kind of person. For you, Nick, man, for your guy Hassan, I don't know if he is or not, but he's a really good player. I feel good with just letting any of those guys on the defensive line that made it go. Like Gregor, I like him, but if we're getting a guy like Hassan coming in, I really feel no attachment to seeing any of those guys go. Just knowing about the production that Hassan brings to the table, knowing that he's an impact kind of player when the game's on the line. Like he's a guy that he's just going to be a game wrecker, which I feel really good in having, and have no feelings attached to anybody on that D line just leaving. Is that safe to say?
Well, I think it's very safe to say, but also I would just add in, you're not getting a more clutch edge rusher in the National Football League.
Yeah.
You look at all his highlights. Every main play that Hassan Reddick has made over the last 2 seasons was made with under 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And I'm not being facetious. It literally was insane how many times he would make plays late in games to just change the outcome. So if you're holding Leonard Taylor or Braden McGregor up because you don't want to get rid of him when Hassan Reddick shows up, you're essentially saying that these guys are better than Hassan Reddick right now. And I don't think that's fair for any rookie, let alone an undrafted free agent, to have that moniker on.
Agreed. And then I had for B-Cod. He wasn't really on my radar until later on in the preseason with some of his returns.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel a certain way seeing him go, just because I feel like our secondary, that was one of our strong points last year. I felt like Sal did a good job grooming the guys, and knowing that we did really good last year without having Chuck Clark back there, and now we're getting him back. Ashton Davis, everybody else, Tony Allen's, everybody else's game is just going up. So I feel really good. So with that move, getting B-Cod away, I thought it was pretty good. Will it bite us in the butt? I'm not going to sit here and worry about it every night. But I feel good with that move. With Robert Saleh, I'm a truther. I've been on record with that. I feel like with us having Rodgers just managing the game and putting us in good spots, like with the wins and what's going on, I feel like it's going to make Rob and everybody else look really good. The thing that with Rob that kind of rubs some people the wrong way is just how his demeanor is when we're losing and people want to see some rah-rah stuff or just grabbing the face mask and yelling and getting people said that's just not his personality. Nick, you could speak to this, where I feel like he has a good relationship with the media and
100%.
writers, and he comes from a place of respect. And I feel like the players that Joe brings in the building and Rob develops, they're all real high character quality guys where you can mold them and fit them into your schemes, and that they will understand to stay within their scheme and not jump out of it. I feel like the discipline was really good with that. The offsides, the Michael Clemens stuff, that's something that has to be cleaned up. But for the most part, I feel like Salah's a great guy, just being there and just keeping the men focused and engaged. Is that safe to say, Nick?
And just to add in, Nick, I just got to say, Robert Saleh's low-key funny, man. So the Ritsamini thing where he's like, oh, wow, Saleh, you haven't showed more anger. It's like, do you want me to flip the podium? And then, and then he walks off. And then later at a press conference, it's the end, right? You have the media guy on the side says, okay, that's enough. And then before Saleh walks off, he's like, oh, Samini, you're not going to ask me about my emotions this time? Wink, and then runs off. Iron sharpens iron kind of hears, Like he's got a fun, it seems like it anyway, Nick, from our seats as fans and other stuff, that like he's got a funny relationship with you guys.
100%. I would say if there's one thing that I'm not exactly pleased with, I think most on the beat can say what he says sometimes isn't exactly the most honest, because he'll say one thing and then the complete opposite happens like 2 hours later. We'd like to see a little more, truthfulness overall, but he gives great answers overall, particularly when we were talking about specific players, reasons for decisions. No, I think again, it's not to say that he's a bad guy. I don't even think he's a bad coach. I just think with coaches in the NFL, they get too much of the blame and too much of the credit because this all goes back to players and execution. The scheme of the West Coast offense doesn't work when you don't have Joe Montana playing quarterback. It's just that simple. So I look at where the Jets are, and I see a great team surrounding solid coaches, and that's all you can ask for in 2024.
I agree. Can I add to that, BG?
Yeah,
So
please,
that's where I feel like Rob has matured and grown in this head coach and leadership role in New York, where the media, that's the one area I feel like is his weak point, where I feel like he's improving just with speaking and standing on things, where I agree with you, Nick. Like basically with the whole Zach Wilson stuff, I hate bringing his name up, but just as an example, where it's like Zach's our guy, Zach's our guy, Zach's our guy. Then all of a sudden he's not, he's like not standing behind that, where we all felt like Zach's holding the team back, but Rob's not really saying it. It's almost like just the company guy standing in front of everybody representing, where he had to kind of be there with ownership and with the GM and all that, and just kind of like, hey, this is kind of our decision. We're going to ride it and kind of see where it goes. I didn't like that part, but with Salah, with the development, with the defense, like the defense is the reason why we got 7 wins. If we didn't have that defense, we would have been in a worse situation. Better draft pick, which some Jet fans would have liked, but just our overall record, we wouldn't have had that. We wouldn't have beat the Bills. We wouldn't have beat the Eagles. It would have been bad, in my opinion.
I think you're right.
But I definitely agree with you, Nick, about the media stuff and just kind of cleaning it up and getting a little better. But that was it. Like, that's the only thing that really stood out was him being mad about the podium.
It's injuries. The other thing, like, so if he said, like, I look back at the Friday practice before the Eagles game last year, where it was, yeah, no, we're good on injuries. Everyone's fine. DJ Reed potentially could be cleared for Sunday. Everything's good. And then an hour later, it's not just DJ Reed, but also Sauce Gardner. Like,
out.
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? So, like, and that's the kind of thing that, like, it irks some media members, because it's like, all right, just tell us the truth. It's not like we're sitting here, going to be like attacking you left and right if you're just giving us an injury report. Like, sure, some things certainly change left and right, but DJ Reed was never going to play. He didn't pass concussion protocol. So why are you saying that there's a chance he could play when there clearly was not?
So for me, for a fan, from a fan's perspective, and it almost feels like a Bill Belichick kind of thing, where he's just hiding it to kind of give an advantage. Where if Salah
But
comes
they have
out,
to report the injury anyway.
but that would be later on, though, right? Don't you have to do that?
It was like 2 hours after. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the final
That's
injury
my
report
issue.
comes out on
gotcha.
Fridays for those
I
games.
got
Yeah.
you. That's the inside scoop I didn't know about. So that's really good enough.
That's kind of why I was like, all
That's
right,
understood.
really, just tell us.
Yeah.
There's no need.
Mm-hmm. Understood. But hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate
Thanks, Chef.
all y'all work. Phenomenal job. Let's go, Jets.
There we go, baby. Appreciate you. And the only proper response, we had the 6th round pick stuff earlier. Ron Weiss here.
Wow.
Oh, you guys are so funny. Morning, fellas. This is from Ron Weiss. Effing Braden Mann was a 6th round pick, so eat it. Wow. The back and forth between EC and the chat is spectacular.
So, okay, you got the 6th round pick. Fantastic. It's a pick swap.
Yeah.
Is that going to, like, do we know what player the Jets are going to pick with that 6th round pick? Are we sure he's going to make the roster next year?
Yeah, which I just think this is great. That right for every Joe Klecko, which is an awesome story. And back then there was like 30 rounds, so 6th round pick. That's great. Like Ron says it, Braden Mann, the punter that also played some time for the Eagles too. That's kind of weird, but anywho, that's neither here nor there.
He's still our punter, yeah.
He still is. Oh wow, great!
Is.
Congratulations to Braden Mann. See, success stories every day. But like that's it. For every Joe Klecko, there's a Braden Mann, or who's still a punter in the National Football League, or what have you. You could go to a lot of different areas. Nick, are you out of time? You gotta go.
I have maybe time for like one more call.
Okay, one more call. All right, I'll have to try to pick a good one here. Who's it going to be? FL Phil 98.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Nick.
Morning.
Real quick, I wanted to ask you about Izzy. By the way, Kevin, that was a great call from Kevin. Liked it a lot. There's been some back and forth in the chat about Izzy. Is he going to be inactive? Is he going to be practice squad? Is he just an emergency guy in case somebody gets hurt? And, my feeling is, for the next 4 weeks while we got these guys on the PUP list, that would be his opportunity to shine in kick return, punt return, maybe, whatever, spelling a guy, whatever it might be. I think this is his chance to stay on the team. But I think if he's just there as an emergency 4th running back, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, here's the thing. They value him and they value his overall development as a 5th round pick. They don't want to just throw those guys out into the wolves after one season. Most GMs do not want to. And Abanikanda played really well in the preseason. We have to give him his flowers. He clearly earned this spot. The one thing that I will say in regards to this that sort of changes the conversation is, yes, he has some special team skill sets. He was a returner out in Pitt. He has the capabilities. It's just that the Jets never really viewed him as that. There were other things he had to work on before he got to the field. So I absolutely could see him on the inactive list, back on the practice squad when Hassan Reddick and Leaky Fotu show up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised that he is one of the few guys that gets released after 53. The roster's been cut down to 53.
Okay. But with the new kickoff rules, and from what I've been hearing, they're going to probably have two guys returning, right? Not just one anymore.
You're allowed to have, so you can have as many, if I believe this is right, Nick, I believe you can have as many as two. Technically, you could have one, but I haven't seen anyone use only one.
Yeah. Right now, my expectation, my guess, probably Xavier Gibson and Malachi Corley. Probably.
Right. Well, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is that's what I keep hearing is stuff like that. And to me, I think with Izzy's speed, why not give, if you want to use him and Corley once, and then, Corley and Gibson once, and then Gibson and Izzy once, I just think he should get an opportunity to return kicks. And even if all that is like, it makes the roster spot worth having. Now I get that there's going to be guys, the 48 that suit, he'll be inactive at times, I guess. But to me, the first 4 weeks would be, I'm going to try and use him and see what I can get out of him.
I get it. I'm not disagreeing, but I think they are very high on Gibson, and they just want to get Malachi Corley the ball as much as possible, and that kind of leaves Abanaconda out.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to say is that what you said about the football gods and Jet history. Trust me, brother, I hear you. It's just been a brutal lifetime of crap. But I want to join my man Hep with all the positive stuff, man. Like, this is our year, brothers. Let's just enjoy it. I am happy today, and I just can't wait for this thing to get started.
Damn straight. Phil, thanks for the call, brother.
Peace.
All right. And Nick, thanks for sharing your insights. We love having you on all week. And every week for the last couple of weeks and through the season. Next week, we're previewing week 1, man. Jets 49ers in the middle of game week 1. That's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Beautiful time to be alive. A beautiful time to be alive. Thanks to you guys so much.
All right, damn straight. Thank you, Nick Faria, for joining us here on the show. Again, you can catch all his work, Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports. I will answer the last call myself, and then I got to sign off because I got to go jump over with the Buffalo Bills people. I got to do some Buffalo Bills media because they're wanting to know about Mike White and Brandon Codrington. So I actually have to do that in just a minute. But before we get there, let's end with Johnny Boy here, Wega House.
You know it. Hey, Boy Green, awesome thing this morning, man. We were still waiting for like 24 hours for that roster to come out from yesterday. I was dying with your tweets, man. If you guys do not follow Boy Green on X, y'all missing out. This dude puts out probably one of the funniest stuff out consistently. Dude, I was dying when you were like, with the meme, you up yet? With the
yeah, I mean, for Pete's sake, we were like one of the last teams. What the hell, man?
Dude, but so the COD thing, right?
Yes.
The COD stuff,
Sure.
or whatever,
yeah.
in regards to that everybody keeps talking about. It is what it is, man. My thing has always been this with preseason games.
Okay.
Right? If you want to make this squad and you want to be on here, you need to run into the house.
Yeah.
You're going against guys that are not going to make the team, that are going to be like, for example, McGregor.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's like, oh, how did he make it? Blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
That dude got 3 sacks back to back to back.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
And dominated what he was supposed to be doing. You got to continue to keep doing that. And if you're going to make the squad itself, one of the questionable ones that I saw was possibly Brownlee, but I get the Brownlee piece of it because of the whole, is Mike Williams going to be okay? Blah, 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 and everything. The Izzy stuff. Real talk, I think Izzy gets traded within the season itself. I think
I could see that.
As trade bait, because you and I both know a lot of running backs get injured and they go down within the extra. So we have more than enough with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. So I think that's a piece that we're like, we showcased him. You got video on him. You see what he could do. Let's talk about it. Let's make some noise. Trader Joe, like Easy said. And we'll even throw a freaking boy green emoji if you guys want to make the Potter a lot sweeter and whatnot.
There you go. I love it. Yeah, look at
And
all
the
these
other-
trades today. Yeah.
Dude, they're wild, bro. I know. Hey, and the last thing, man.
Yes.
The undrafted free agents that made it.
Yeah.
I love it because you're getting players. It's kind of what Chef was talking about in regards like the whole culture talk and how things are different and have changed and the way Salah is and all this stuff like that.
Mhm.
You're getting guys that nobody wanted and all that, and they're gonna play a lot harder for you. And then when it comes time, and if these guys are diamonds in the rough, as they say, which seems like
Yeah.
we continue to-
Obviously. Yeah.
we keep doing, right? It's a win-win for us, man. So let's hope. I mean,
Fingers
LT,
crossed.
right? LT the third. At
Mhm.
one point, he was considered maybe
First
a
round pick. Yeah.
pick
He
or
was.
whatever. So
Yeah.
again, I mean, they're there, and the Coach Salah stuff, right?
Yeah.
That he gets this whole like the perception is that he's not like a dude that's gonna yell at you. and-
Emotions. Right. Yeah.
You know that, right? It's false. Look, I know people that were one of his, players and whatnot. I won't
Mhm.
say the name, anything, but he always was like, hell no. He's like, that dude would get up in your ass. He just didn't disrespect you in front of the media
Right.
and all that. And the way he would do it, if the one group, right, one person messed up out of the group, he made sure everybody in that group got in trouble for it too, because his biggest thing, you are as weak as your weakest link
Mhm.
and whatnot. And it shows, man, those 7 games that he won with us with having the worst quarterback
Come
in
on.
history of the league itself
Yeah.
doesn't get talked about as much. And yeah, and JD, he is helping out for the future itself, even if supposedly something goes down and the ship doesn't ride into the freaking sunset the way it's supposed to and whatnot, and he gets fired, which I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I got you.
But he's set up for the next dude, man. So with that being said, BG, I know you got to head out, man.
Yeah.
Tell him Mike White is the second coming of
I will.
of freaking Joe Montana.
There you go.
Buffalo, so they could bench Joe Allen or
Yeah.
Allen, whatever
Yeah.
his name is.
Yeah.
Josh
That's right.
Allen.
Josh Allen. Yeah. That's
yeah.
right. I'll let them know.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, JB. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the 700 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. I got to run and go do a little bit of Buffalo media. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Tomorrow morning, Ian O'Connor, 4-time best-selling author for the New York Times best-selling author 4 times over. You'll be joining us tomorrow morning live at 7:30. Talk Jet season, his book, Aaron Rodgers, so much more. We'll see you guys tomorrow, plus with Woody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.